Hi Algebra 1, this is going to be your Chapter 5 test review. Let's go ahead and get started. The first question asks you to solve each system by substitution, and since y is already solved for us here, I'm just going to plug this entire thing in for y in the first part. So what I did is I went ahead and just plugged in the 5x plus 12 into the y. Notice there is a negative being distributed, so that means the 5x and the 12 will become negative. The next thing I'm going to want to do is combine my like terms, and then I will solve for x. For number 1, I get x is equal to negative 1. Now I'm going to go back and plug it in to this original problem here to solve for y. Once I plug in my negative 1, I can go ahead and start solving. So I get negative 5 plus 12, which is equal to 7. So my answer for number 1 is negative 1, 7. Number 2 is again substitution. I don't have x or y already solved for me, but what I could do is maybe go ahead and solve for y here by eliminating or putting my x's on the other side. So I get y is equal to negative x minus 1. Now I'm going to plug this in to my bottom portion. So here it is where I plugged in my y, and notice again that I'm still distributing a negative number to both the negative x and negative 1, so that's going to make both of those positive. Next, I can go ahead and combine like terms and then solve for x. If I subtract 1 from both sides, I get negative 7x is equal to negative 21, so x is equal to a positive 3. Now I'm going to take this and plug it back in to my original equation up here. Since I've went ahead and plugged in 3 for x in the original equation, I can go ahead and solve for y. If I subtract 3 from both sides, y is equal to negative 4, so my answer would be 3, negative 4 for number 2. In number 3, it'd be easiest to solve for y if I just added 4x to each side. So for my y value, I have 4x plus 19. Now I can go ahead and plug in my y into the second equation. In this case, I am distributing a negative 2 once I substituted my y for 4x plus 19. So let's go ahead and distribute that. After I distributed, I can go ahead and combine like terms. 8x minus 8x will just cancel out and give me 0x, so I get negative 38 is equal to negative 38. This is going to take us back to lesson 5.4 when it talks about the special solutions. We would say for number 3 that there are infinitely many solutions here because we completed a true statement. In number 4, it would be easiest to solve for x here. So I'm going to subtract 8y from both sides. So x is equal to negative 8y minus 17. Then I can go ahead and plug in that x into my second equation. So here it is where my x is plugged in. So I have negative 2 being distributed to both of these items in here. So let's go ahead and do that. So I get 16y plus 34 plus 7y is equal to negative 12. Let's go ahead and combine like terms while we're here. 16y and 7y make 23y. So 23y plus 34 equals negative 12. And I'm going to subtract 34 from both sides, which is essentially just adding my two negatives. So I get 23y is equal to negative 46. So y is equal to negative 2. Now that I've found my y, I can go back and plug it in. I maybe even would plug it in right back up here where we solved for x, because x is already solved for. Remember, it doesn't matter where you plug y in, as long as you plug it in somewhere to solve for x. Negative 8 times negative 2 is a positive 16, and 16 minus 17 is negative 1. So x is equal to negative 1 for number 4, so my answer would be negative 1, negative 2. The next part we're going to do is elimination. Remember, elimination, you just want to have your x's and y's on the same side. Notice maybe in number 5 that I have all kind of mixed up here. So what I'm going to do is maybe move my 15 over so that it could be a constant with the other and mirror the other equation. Here's what that's going to look like. So what I've basically done is just set up my constants together the x's together and the y's together. So I basically just put them in the same situation in the equation. Now I can go ahead and eliminate. It's really easy to eliminate the x's here because there's one positive 5 and one negative 5. So I can go ahead and solve for y. 2 and negative 15 is going to give me negative 13. And then 3y and 10y gives me 13y. So y is equal to negative 1. Now I'm ready to plug in y back in to maybe one of my original equations. So I'm going to do that with the first equation. So all I did was plug in the negative 1 where the y is, and now I can go in and solve for x. So I have 2 plus 5x is equal to negative 3. I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So I get 5x is equal to negative 5. So x is also equal to negative 1. So my answer to number 5 is negative 1, negative 1. For number 6, let's go ahead and eliminate here. What I would do is go ahead and make my y a positive. So what I did is I just multiplied everything by negative 1 to make it look like this. So my 8x changed to negative, my negative y changed to positive, and my negative 16 changed to positive 16. Now it's going to be really easy to go ahead and eliminate the y's because one is positive and one is negative 1. If I eliminate the y's, I would have negative 12x is equal to 12. So for number 6, x will be equal to negative 1. Now I can take that and maybe plug it back into this one right here. So what I've done is plugged in negative 1 where the x is located. Now I can solve for y. So I'll get 4 minus y equals negative 4. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides, so I get negative y is equal to negative 8, which means y is equal to positive 8. So for number 6, I get negative 1, comma 8 as my answer. The next one we have is number 10, and it looks like it'd be easy to multiply either one by 2. I'd probably end up multiplying the first one by 2 just because we're dealing with the smaller numbers, and this is what I get. And then I can also bring down my other one, my original negative 20x plus 18y is equal to 16. And notice what's going to happen here is that both the x's and the y's cancel out. So I get 0 is equal to negative 28 plus 16, that'd be negative 12. And because 0 is not equal to 12, we're going to say that this is no solution. So no two numbers of x and y would actually work for both of those. Next up for number 8, you probably have to multiply both of these by something. I would maybe focus on eliminating your y's. So I'm going to multiply the top one by, let's say, 4, and the bottom one I'll multiply by 3. So I'm going to get 16x minus 12y is equal to 64. And then the bottom one will be negative 15x plus 12y is equal to negative 66. Now I can eliminate my y's, so I have x, because 16x minus 15x is just x, is equal to negative 2. And that's easy to plug in. I'd maybe even plug it back into the original one. So 4 times negative 2. And then minus 3y is equal to 16. I get negative 8 minus 3y is equal to 16. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. So I get negative 3y is equal to 24. So y for number 8 is equal to negative 8. So my answer would be negative 2, negative 8. Okay? For number 9, we are solving by graphing, so each one you're going to graph. I'm going to go and start with number 9. This y is equal to x minus 2, so I'm going to go down to negative 2, and then just show a rise 1, run 1. So there's my entire line. I'm going to go and make a line here, and then I'm going to graph the other one in a different color. For x is equal to -1, you just find -1 on the x-axis, plot your point, and then make a vertical line, and they both intersect at -1, -3. So my answer for number 9 is -1, -3. Okay. Number 10, you're going to do the same thing here. Again, let's start with the first one. My first one, I'm going to have a y-intercept of +4, and my rise over run is down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Okay. Go ahead and make that connection there. And then my next one, I'll do that in a different. My y-intercept is -4, and my rise over run is 2 over 3. So up 2 over 3, and right away I was able to find my interception point. So that is 3, -2. Okay. For number 11, this would be maybe helpful if you wrote the first one into slope-intercept form. So let's go ahead and do that there. So I went ahead and wrote the first one in slope-intercept form. Y is equal to -x minus 1. So -1 is your y-intercept, and your rise over run is down 1 over 1. So that one's going to be a negative correlation. I'm going to go ahead and just plot the rest of these points here and make my line. The next one also needs to be written in slope-intercept form, so we're also going to do that too. For my next one, I get y is equal to -x minus 3. So I'm going to go ahead and graph that one as well. So with the -3 being my y-intercept, and then I also have a rise run of down 1 over 1. And if you notice, these points are not going to intersect because they're parallel and they have the same slope. So for number 11, you're going to write no solution. Okay. Going on to number 12, these are when you get to your greater thans or equal to, so you do need to make sure that you are making sure your line is correctly drawn. For this one, we're going to go down 2 first for our y-intercept, and then rise 1, run 2. Rise 1, run 2. And then go down over 2. Down 1 over 2. Down 1 over 2. Okay, and this is a solid line because it's greater than or equal to, so it's going to be everything that is shaded above it. And then we're going to do the next line in a different color. For this one, your y-intercept is 3, and your rise over run is up 3 over 1. Notice I do go off the page if I try to go up 3. So I'm just going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3 over 1, down 3 over 1. Okay, and then this one should be a dotted line because it's greater than. And then notice when we intercept, it would be at this point, which would be our overlap. So basically anything from the purple and red on, that would be your solution. Sometimes people like to shade, if you have one color, you can shade like this for one way, and then you can shade like this for another way, so you can only see where it crosses over to. I'll show that in this one right here. So this one would be, again, helpful to write it in slope-intercept form, so let's go ahead and practice that with the first one. So the first one we'll get y is less than -1/3 x plus 3. So I'm going to go up to 3, put my dot, and then fall 1 over 3. And the same thing over there, up 1 over 3. And this is less than and a dotted line. So again, let's maybe just shade up and down like this. Okay, the same thing for the second one. I'm going to go ahead and fix that so it's in slope-intercept form. You did need to be careful here because when you're solving for slope-intercept form, you actually divided by a negative, which switches your greater than sign to be a less than one. So I'm going to go up to a +1 and show a rise over run of up 1 over 3. And this is also dotted. And since this one is less than, we're going to shade everything below the line so you can see where they start to overlap here. For number 14 again, it'd be helpful to write this first one into slope-intercept form. So we get y is greater than or equal to negative x minus 1. So that'd be negative 1 and then a fall 1, run 1. So you're going down here. Since it's greater than or equal to, it will be a solid line, and we will shade everything above the line. So all of this. And then for y is greater than negative 3, we'll find negative 3 on the y-axis. And this is a dotted line with everything bigger than negative 3. So the only overlap you would have for both would be above this section here. Okay, you could have some shading here, but it's not going to overlap with the red. The next few are just systems of equations. Let's go ahead and write our equations, and we can use the method of our choice. So I'm going to say X is the shirt and Y is the tie. So 4 shirts and 3 ties were sold for $125. So that would be 4x plus 3y equals 125. And then 6 shirts, so 6x and 3 ties plus another 3y is 165. Okay, what I did is I went ahead and just made this first one I'm going to do elimination here. So I'm going to multiply the first one by negative 1. So I get negative 4x minus 3y is equal to negative 125. So that way I can eliminate my y's. When I do that, I get 2x is equal to 40. So x is equal to 20. Once I'm ready to find out my y, just go back and plug it in. I might plug it into this one right here. So 6 times 20 plus 3y is equal to 165. So that'd be 120 plus 3y equals 165. And subtract 120 from both sides. 3y is equal to 45. So y is equal to 15. So a shirt cost 20 bucks and a tie cost 15. This is how you want to answer because it says what is the cost. So you want to make sure your answer is in cost. The next one we have is kind of the same deal. You have $2.30 in dimes and quarters. And if the number of dimes is 5 less than the number of quarters, how many coins of each type does she have? Well, we know that 0.10 represents dimes and 0.25 represents quarters. So I'll just use dimes and quarters for this one. And what we also know is that the number of dimes is 5 less than the number of quarters. So what I can do is maybe plug that into for dimes. So the number of dimes would be 5 less than quarters. That'd be Q minus 5 for 5 less than quarters. Okay. So what I'm basically doing here is doing substitution. So I get 0.10 Q minus 0.5 plus 0.25 Q is equal to $2.30. I'm going to go ahead and combine my terms. I get 0.35 Q minus 0.5 is equal to $2.30, and then add 0.5 back. So I get 0.35 Q is equal to $2.80. And when you divide both sides by 0.35, Q is equal to 8. So if I have Q is equal to 8, what I can go back and do, I know that the number of dimes is 5 less than the number of quarters. Dimes is 5 less than quarters. So I can just plug in my 8 quarters, 8 and minus 5. So the number of dimes is 3 and quarters is 8. For number 17, it says 2 angles are supplementary. The measure of the larger one is 1/24 more than the measure of the small angle, find the measure of each angle. So I'm going to say that x is the smaller one and y is the larger one. Then what I will do is go ahead and just make two equations. I know x plus y should be equal to 180, but it says the larger angle is 124 more degrees than the measure of the smaller one. So what I can maybe do is say 2 smalls would still be 124 more plus that 180. So I would have 2x plus 124 equals 180. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is go ahead and solve for, oops, I forgot one thing. I should have written y is equal to, the larger one is equal to x plus 124. So what I'm basically doing is plugging in this x plus 24 is substitution and solving. So I'm going to subtract 124 from both sides. So I get 2x is equal to 56. And dividing both by 2, x is equal to 28. So if x is equal to 28, then y would be equal to 152, because 2 supplementaries would be 180. And if I subtract 28 from that, I get 152. So 28 degrees and 152 degrees would be my answer for 17. The last few, we have number 18. It says write a system of linear inequalities. This first one on the x-axis is a dotted solid line, and it's less than. So it's x is less than or equal to 3. And the next one is a dotted line on the y-axis, and it's -1. So y is greater than -1. For number 19, the dotted or the solid line is at 3, and it is greater than or equal to. And the rise over run, I'm going to say we go down 1, 2 over 1, 2, 3. So it's a positive 2/3 x. The next one, though, is also a greater than sign, but not greater than or equal to, because it's dotted. And that one is going to be intercepted at the -3 mark. And that rise over run, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So it's -4/3 x minus 3. For the very last one, it says you're buying plants and soil for your garden. The soil costs $4 per bag. So I'm going to go and say x is the bags of soil and y is the plants. So my equation could be 4x plus 10y is less than or equal to $100, so I don't want to spend more than that. I'm going to go ahead and write an equation here, get it in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. So I get 10y is less than or equal to -4x plus 100. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 10. So y is less than or equal to -4x, or -2/5 x plus 10. And then I need to go ahead and graph. It also says I want to buy at least 5 plants, so I need it to be greater than or equal to 5. So let's look to see what my graph would be looking like. So here would be my overlap of each type of situation. I would have greater than or equal to 5, but still less than or equal to -2/5 x plus 10. That's going to conclude our review. Thanks so much for tuning in, and thanks for being patient. Good luck on your chapter.